Once again, I'll give it a few seconds to get all into position here. I have a few people already going live with me over here. That's lovely. It's the Nazarite, bringing you Hebrew lore from days of yore. Okay, so I'll say hello to Peace and Coffee, Robert Harrison, Siyamatanda Ndlang Alavu is in the house. All right, it's good to have you here with me. I am very grateful, very thankful that I'm gonna get into this now. It is also the 19th of June, which is my Gregorian wedding anniversary. 21 years. 21 years. Okay, hang on. Now wait, see, it just popped up on the screen. Meaning that what? It's been, according to my phone, it's been almost a minute. Have you been seeing me for almost a minute? Or did it just pop on 10 seconds ago? Let me know. Because from what I could tell over here on the screen, I popped up when I said something right before the words wedding anniversary. But I don't know if that's what you guys were seeing. Either way, even if I just started right now, let's say, let's go for it. So I'll start with this. Yesterday, I posted a shout out to the New York Nazarite Aleph Aleph regarding the second Passover and the idea of the Nazarite being on a far journey. And, oh, okay, so it just popped on 10 seconds ago, says Robert. Okay, well, what I was saying before that is that today is the 19th of June. It's my Gregorian wedding anniversary, and that I'm very grateful, very thankful to be here with you now for this live stream. So that's basically the gist of it. So let's see. Aleph Aleph, I've known him online. I haven't met him personally, but he was one of the first Nazarites that I met digitally, let's say. And I've met many since, I suppose, but he's definitely one of the only Hebrew ones, right? One of the only Jewish ones that I've met, that I met, well, online, that are abroad. I've met several Jewish Orthodox Nazarite rabbis here, and a few abroad. And it's interesting. And he was one of the first. He's like an elder, you know what I mean? Congratulations, you guys are a great couple, says Robert. Thank you, thank you. Another shout out was sent to the Young Levite, that's the name of the channel. He posted a few of his thoughts on the Nazarite vow on last week's Torah portion, Naso. He drew an interesting parallel, which I hadn't considered, between the Greek myth of Narcissus and the story of the Nazarite who came to offer sacrificial offerings at the time of the Second Temple to Shimon HaTzadik, Shimon the Righteous, who was said to be the high priest at the time, or at least for a time. And there's a parallel there that he draws because of the nature of the story with the Nazarite and Rabbi Shimon, and Shimon HaTzadik and Narcissus, which eventually fell, but the Nazarite is elevated. If you're interested, check it out, The Young Levite. Incidentally, The Young Levite is broadcasting live right now, teaching the ethics of our fathers from the oral traditions, from the Mishnah. And I popped over there before I came here for a bit, and it sounds like they're having a nice little study session there. If you are interested in the lore, the ethics of our fathers, as it's known, that part of the Mishnah, aka Pirkei Avot, then definitely check that out. Because from what I could tell, they're having a nice discussion over there on the Mishnah, and there's a lot of wisdom to be gained and gleaned from Pirkei Avot. So whether it's them just discussing it, or whether it's with commentary, rabbinic commentary, modern commentary, earlier ones, it's pretty good. It's nice to go into there. So I'll continue from yesterday, the notes that should I continue? You know what? Should I do the chat first from yesterday, or should I do no, I'll do the notes that I had that I never got to. So Ariel Marshall said, if an omnipotent creator and manipulator of everything somehow managed to not get what the creator wanted, would that be considered a miracle of some kind or anti-miracle? A miracle or some kind of anti-miracle. So I told him, if you say that the creator will not get what the creator wanted, the words get and wanted are key here, because as soon as you bring desires and wants and needs into the fold and into the picture, already you are talking about revelations of the creator and not the creator as such in essence. And because of that, it becomes a perceived revelation to creation, and that's a whole other ball game. So he said, when I told him this, he said, I guess I was trying to compare miracles to that which we generally perceive as impossible under normal circumstances. So basically, said Ariel Marshall, saying the Creator creates the will of the Creator, and nothing should be able to exist outside of the Creator's will under normal circumstances, assuming God is omnipotent, if this makes sense, right? That the Creator creates the will and nothing exists but the will. And then he says, I'm trying to use words to explain something more complex than words can explain, I guess. Confusing myself now, he said. And BMXers and Ariel then in the comments thread had a back and forth on the nature of what it means to wrestle with God, right? Coming out of this this quick back and forth that we had. It's still, or was still ongoing until late last night. Right before I went online last night at 10 p.m. Israel time, they were still going at it back and forth in yesterday, right in the comments. So the idea of wrestling with God, again, is already a creation. It's not the Creator itself. It can be an image of the Creator, a messenger of the Creator, an angel of the Creator, a facet of the Creator, whatever you want to give it. There will have to be some sort of a, well, let's say a barrier, a hindrance, something that will be in between, because the Creator, if manifested here in the world, it's through something that we can perceive. And if it can be perceived, it already stops being the Creator and is then a revelation given to creation. Ergo, not to the Creator in and of itself, if that makes sense. Asma Ali Cooler asked, do you support the liberation of the Palestinian people? Now, I know I said I'm not going to talk about the war, and I'm not going to talk about the war really, but I answered that I support the liberation of Gaza and its inhabitants from the hands of the murderous Hamas terrorists and other evil regimes and other warmongering factions, and that I acknowledge that people who lived here in the past deserve to live here still, and we need to find a way to make peace, and peace, generally speaking, is made between enemies. And even though this person didn't ask, I said, as for the land belongs to the Creator first and foremost, and there shouldn't be one nation who claims entire rights to it, right? Not in its entirety. Yeah, I mean, even in biblical times, even in the times of the Torah, it was said, yes, other people from the nations can live here. Is there, biblically speaking, a certain rule and superiority, if almost, or sovereignty to the Hebrew people here in the land of Israel? Yes, the Israelites in the land of Israel, other people would need to conform. So it's not as liberal a thought as this Asma or Asama may think or want me to express, but I did mean what I said. Right? Peace is made between enemies. Nobody is about to leave this land, so we got to find a way to work it out. And sometimes, many times, peace is the result of bloody war. Okay, that's what I'll say about that. Lisa Freyne said that she didn't know I was back making videos. Yes, I am. I'm back. I'm live. She said, I missed you. Hopefully I can catch you when I'm not working so I can join your lives again. I hope so too. If different people, I mean, I do this at 10 p.m. Israel time. If other people, right, if y'all are saying it will be better at this time or that time, I might do that at some point. I don't know, but between, work and wife and kids and all of that, 10 p.m. is when things settle down and I can actually do this with for some prolonged period of time, right, for a nice chunk of time. Sneezer posted a highly detailed, two-part comment on yesterday's live stream, right, complete with timestamps. He was pretty meticulous. He went through different points, he addressed them, and I want to address those, but it might take an entire video, right, that I designate to go through his comments and respond. I just wanted to mention him because he put in so much time and effort into the different points he wanted to discuss and replying and the timestamps, so I just had to mention him. Likewise, I still haven't forgotten about Jesse Link's The Burning Element and the video pertaining to the four-letter name of God. Provide Leverage said in regards to faith in oneself, what I was saying to Noam the other day, I think, was it Monday? He said, faith is the compass in the midst of a tempest, or faith is the compass, right? Faith is a compass during a tempest, right? Something that can point you and guide you and orient you when everything is stormy and chaotic. Now, a few people yesterday and today left comments without any line breaks or paragraphs. People, paragraphs are your friend. I don't just say this as a writer myself. I say this as somebody who is also a reader. Paragraphs are your friend. And if you can afford to make paragraphs and format, even if you're doing it on mobile, you can just press, right, return, enter, whatever it is. A new paragraph will begin, and it makes it so much better, so much nicer, so much clearer, so much easier to read and comprehend and follow, and that would help me in turn to address it properly, understand what you're saying. Paragraphs are your friend. All right, let's go to the chat here first of all. That is so true, says Simantanda. That is so true, and there's more to that actually. That is so very true. Right, so I get to the chat sometimes later, so you might have to reference at times what it is you were talking about, just so I'll be able to respond in kind. Okay, let's go to the chat from yesterday and continue. And if you want to do or say anything here, go for it. Oh, when you mentioned the war in the country, I see. Well, yeah, that's just my view. Just my view. Okay. Sneezer said, if you like this format, I'll try to come frequently. This is the type of program I love to participate in. And incidentally, it's the type of program that I love hosting here on YouTube. So that's good. Yes said, you believe that Lord constantly needs to intervene, nature and mathematic parallel harmony, or mostly lets it flow. Well, I think both of them exist at the same time, because creation has its random element, and creation has its precise element, right? It's very, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, come on, Jonathan, what's the word I'm looking for? I'll remember it in a second. Anyway, right, that things are predetermined, right? Determinism and randomness, right? A leads to B leads to C, or is it A, Z, W, and a C thrown in there for good measure? And both of them, I believe, happen. Both of them do exist. Both of them happen sometimes in parallel. Well, all the time in parallel, because... Oh, hold on. Okay. Wait, no, I lost the chat. I need to go back now. I need to go back to that chat. Okay. Is it here? No. Hang on a sec. Come on, I want to grab that chat. Where is it? Which one is it? So wait, this is Tuesday. I'm sorry, I was on Wednesday. No, this is Wednesday. I was on Tuesday. See, I'm already so confused. Okay, let's see. Let's continue. Wait, so I'm sorry, I don't understand where the chat kind of disappeared on me, but I want to keep reading from yesterday's chat, because that's what I said I'm going to do. Ah, okay, there it is. There it is. Good. Good. So, yes said. No, we're not there. I don't have the entire chat in front of me. This is a little annoying. Okay, here it is. Okay, so good. We're not there yet. Oh wow, there was so much discussion in the chat. I can't believe it. I'm sorry, I'm not in the proper frame here. But I want to get this. I want to get, you people, you engage with me, you write your comments, and I want to do it properly. It's important to me that I don't just gloss over, oh yeah, they were writing all kinds of stuff. No, I want to actually address it. So it's important for me to do so in a proper manner. There it is. Yes, replying to Sneezer replied to yes, I believe God broke the pool rack. The rest has been ongoing since. The pool rack? Okay. Oh, broke the pool rack. I see. Okay. Pool. Gotcha. That's one way of looking at it. There are two ways of looking at it mainly, like many ways, I suppose. But there's what's called hashgacha pratit and hashgacha klalit, meaning there's one way of looking at it where God, at this very moment, at this very second, is in charge of every single thing, from the macro to the micro, and is actively moving creation, noticing everything, right? And then there's the idea of, no, God sort of sets things in motion, and he's letting it ride out, right? He's letting it ride out and come what will. And both of them, I believe, exist. This idea of is God like sitting with a microscope or a telescope, so to speak? Is he from is God's revelation, not the revelation rather, because you're talking about God himself. You say God broke the pool rack. So once again, I don't know God. So I can't really get involved in that. I just feel both of those revelations, right, of determinism and of randomness, let's say, that exists in parallel. Alex Stasi said, no, we never go to Brit HaChadasha. This is true. The Jewish people never do cite the New Testament, the Christian Bible, in order to convey any kind of faith, any kind of, again, wisdom can be gleaned from there, but not faith. We don't go to the Brit Hadasha. More often than not, we will go to the Hebrew Bible and not any other Bible, not any other holy book if it comes to the Bible. And of course, if you're dealing with somebody who is a follower of Yeshua, or let's say a Muslim, you could cite the Quran. But between Jews, let's say, and in between the Hebrew people, the Brit Hadasha, unless you're a Messianic Jew and a follower of Yeshua, the Brit Hadasha is not a holy book. We don't set it aside. We do not set it apart. It is not considered canon, let's say, for us. We are balls colliding, says Sneezer. So right, the randomness. I hear what you're saying. Yes, Hashem controls everything, in my opinion, says Jesse Links. So right, we see both things happening here in the chat. Alex Stasi said, real Jewish, fully dedicated and loyal to the Torah and Elohim. Admirable. I'd like to be the same. Yes says, I agree, or said, I agree, but I ask to what extent universe is a machine, perfectly tuned from the beginning. Well, look, that also has to do with you as an individual. Certain things are predetermined, genetically speaking. Other things, let's say if we're going with the genetics analogy, or it's not even an analogy, it's actually what happens. When you do certain things in life, new genes, dormant genes turn on, and they code for new protein, and they make new connections. Likewise with your, with the different neurons firing, and what is it? Neurons that wire together, fire together? No, fire together, wire together, whichever one it is. You create certain things you're born with, certain things you create throughout your life. And part of what the Torah teaches is that you're supposed to choose life because you can actually have a grave and great effect on what goes on inside of you and outside of you. And again, it's that idea of the butterfly effect of a stone, of a pebble in a pool of water that has the ripple effect, and you never truly know how far you will reach and what you will do, for better or for worse, which is why the Torah says, yeah, you need to choose life. Even if the universe is a machine perfectly tuned from the beginning, to quote Yes, then that machine can be tweaked by human beings. I'll leave it at that. Alex Stasi says in Hebrew, Lo ta'avod elilim acherim, do not worship other gods or false gods. Sneezer said, LOL, Paula, in the ditch because you didn't reply in time. Kidding, because he was driving yesterday. Sneezer says, I can't remember if Pharaoh died in the Red Sea. His generals, yeah. Right, so the generals is a known thing. Pharaoh, as we saw in the chat, it's a controversy and a difference of opinion on whether or not he died. Alex Stasi maintains that he died. Jesse says, that's what I thought. My own memory is foggy too, don't remember it all, said Sneezer. But it open written. Okay, so wait, Alex Stasi said that it's an actual verse, but he didn't supply the chapter and verse or the actual quote. Jesse said, I believe his body is on display in Egypt, actually. On display you mean inside of a pyramid of some kind? Or do you mean a different kind of display? Sneezer said, I agree. What most people use for gematria is like I Ching or astrology and idolatry. Well, there is a connection between Hebrew gematria and Hebrew astrology, because Hebrew astrology is different than, other types of foreign, let's say, astrology. And again, I'll leave it at that. But once again, gematria, astrology, the seasons, things that have to do with nature, they are, like I said, they are either they introduce an idea or they come at the end of an idea, at the culmination, to tie things together, but they are not the meal itself. They are a dessert, as the Mishnah says. And that's how I choose to look at it too. Sneezer says the exception being more the word formulas I referred to. Right, so if you're referring to word formulas, Sneezer, and the different gematrias and the different anagrams and the way in which things can be interpreted through the word, and primarily for me that would mean the Hebrew, then I understand what you mean. I do. He actually did and created Atenism, firstborn perished explains Tutankhamun's age. Right, okay, so Pharaoh actually did, you say. Okay, I hear what you're saying. And you're saying that King Tut being the boy king is exactly proof of that. I don't know the chronology, actually, if somebody can enlighten me according to that. Sneezer says, oh, so it is literally your explanation technique, unheard from elsewhere. Right, so the rainbow and the light. I don't recall hearing that somewhere else. Maybe I did. I don't recall. Definitely, I don't recall anybody phrasing it quite like that. And like I said, if you want the original, I have it on my channel in the weekly Torah portion of Noah from, I uploaded it a couple of years ago, but it was actually more like 6 years ago. Same with LSD, says Sneezer, but it always feels dirty, especially being covered in salt after. Covered in salt? I don't recall having any experience with acid where by the end of which I was covered in salt. But 100% right, it was my first experience to miraculous. Right, for some people, that kind of chemical connection and filter removal would immediately constitute something miraculous, seemingly making the impossible possible, or what you thought was impossible into possible. But I myself, just on a personal level, when that happened, as I said yesterday, I was like, oh yeah, it's like obviously it can have a physical counterpart of some kind, where things are removed and you're able to experience reality in a different way. Yes. Sneezer said, have you had a natural DMT release yet, undosed? No, I haven't. I've heard that DMT is released in dreams, in birth, and in sleep, and in sleep, in birth, and in death, where we secrete. Secrete, is that it? Yes, secrete DMT naturally from the brain, something like that. Because if I'm correct on my biochemistry here, we naturally produce DMT, but there's something inside of our bodies which inhibits it. And in very certain key moments of life, so they say, I don't know if this is like scientifically founded and researched enough, but I think that there is the scientific opinion, let's say, an idea that DMT is secreted naturally or released naturally in the body at specific times. So we'll have to see. I'm very sure that more research is being conducted on natural and synthesized DMT as we speak, and hopefully we'll be able to get some more info on that. My highest was a 16-hit trip, said Sneezer, and I'd say after 10, it's just pure hell. I can imagine that. I'm sorry you had to experience that, but I guess you had to experience that. Sneezer says, LOL, this time he takes the big nose as an insult, though friendly. Last time all he read was the coke. What do you mean? Are you talking about me? Because I believe that I only referenced cocaine once, and I mentioned big nose at the time, or maybe I didn't. I'll trust what you said, Sneezer. Ariel Marshall said, think I get what you are saying about the braids and the hair. If somebody wants to adorn their hair or put plate or make them into plates and put things on them and kettlebells, and he said, if some shy, introverted, not attention-seeking Nazarite wanted to modestly adorn their hair with kettlebells, first they should bind their dreads plates with supportive, strengthening ribbons first. Gotcha, he said with a smiley. I'm all for the natural thing, but if you want to adorn your dreads, again, like I said, and you're a Nazarite, just do it in a way that doesn't pull on the hair and that in no way can rip it out. Certainly not from the root. Sneezer said to Ariel, seems to me you're adding a lot he didn't suggest, but maybe I misunderstood. As I understand it, it's far more about leaving it naturally. Right, that makes sense. But I shave my head, so... Well, Sneezer, do you shave your head because it's something that you consider like in a kind of Buddhist sort of way, right? A Buddhist monk kind of way? Or is it simply that you were losing your hair and had the male pattern baldness and were like, I'm just going to shave it? Or do you simply like the look, like the aesthetics of a shaved, shorn head? I am just demonstrating my outstanding maturity, answered Ariel Marshall. No, said Sneezer, the Roman, I can't remember his name at the moment, declared he couldn't kill him, but the Jewish rabble demanded he kill Jesus for claiming to be the Son of God, which was forbidden. Okay, see, I only read the New Testament one time, and like I said, I don't take any articles of faith from it. I just read it so I can know a little bit more about Messianic Jews that I was speaking with and other Christians that I engage with here. And so it was it Pilate? Pontius Pilate, I believe. Ariel Marshall said, would love to see somebody try to wander about with kettlebells in the hair trying to avoid attention. That would be quite a sight to see, I'll tell you. Then the Roman, continued Sneezer, the Roman brought out Barbarus, that's it, that was his name, Barabbas or Barbarus. Okay, since it's your feast, which of these two do you want me to release? Right, so that's what I was saying. Yes, that's how I remembered it vaguely from reading it years ago. The Jewish rabble chose the murderer. Oh, so it wasn't a thief, it was a murderer. Rather than let the prophet live. Okay. And Robert brought a verse from the New Testament saying, no man kills Jesus. He said, I lay my life down. Right, so followers of Yeshua always say this, right? That Yeshua, that Jesus gave his life like voluntarily, and again, psychologically. And I can see what he's talking about. It's about going all in, even at the price, even at the cost of your own life. And that's what some, at least in the Jewish faith, in rabbinic talk, would call Kiddush Hashem, sanctifying the name, right? Giving yourself over completely. There's also the Hasidic term, mostly Hasidic, of Hishtavut Hatzura, meaning that you make yourself really parallel to the Creator in this, in the idea that you are nothing and you are completely null and void and devoid of ego. Let's say a kind of ego death. Speaking of substances and DMT, it's a kind of ego death, but not synthesized and not even from a mushroom, let's say, but it's simply the idea of following God to such an extent where you give yourself over completely, right? What's called bitul, cancellation or nullification of oneself. And it's said to be a virtue to be able to attain such a place where you are really truly nothing. Right? Because you never really will be nothing, because you are flesh and bone and blood and guts. But you can reach a kind of image of godness that is so much in the mirror of the Creator and the revelation of the Creator, I mean, that you yourself become that nothingness. Right? You yourself connect to that infinite, even though you are definitely a finite being. The Roman, continued Sneezer, assumed the Jews would not want a murderer out loose and forgive Jesus' minor crimes, if even guilty. Well, he thought wrong, according to the story, right? That's not what happened. Kings are decreed, said Sneezer, by other kings. No. Only royalty can make royalty. Well, okay, you're entitled to your opinion, but if I'm not mistaken, according to halacha anyway, and this is what Maimonides brings down, and others as well, rules of halacha, of rabbinic law, who say that if it's from father to son, you don't need to be anointed. But if there's a dispute or a controversy over who is it that shall be king, then you need to take him down to a stream in the land of Judah, if it's a king of Judah, and anoint him with persimmon oil. A prophet is supposed to do it, though it probably wasn't a prophet 100% of the time. But halachically speaking, prophets, maybe priests too, it escapes me. I think prophets anoint kings of Judah with persimmon and other kings with olive oil. For kings of Israel with olive oil, if I'm not mistaken. Pontius Pilate, yes, his official ring bearing his name has also been found. The criminal was Barabbas. Herod's the Great Massacre. I don't understand, yes. What do you mean? What great massacre? Herod the king had a massacre? I'm not exactly following you. So maybe y'all can help me out here. Okay. Robert said, he let them kill him so you can't blame the Jews. Oh, right, because he said, would you apologize for killing Jesus? These people, huh? I don't think King David was really accepted as king by the people, thus the Bible says they loved Avshalom. Well, he was already king then. They were just leaning after Avshalom. Not surprisingly. Sneezer said Pilate clearly didn't want to kill Jesus, but had to keep the peace. At least he told, as told in the Bible, right? Again, the Christian Bible. I must differentiate. I must. Job was written by Moses, says Robert Harrison. Right, that's one opinion. It's one opinion that he wrote it, correct. Sneezer says, and Pontius Pilate, acting as Rome decreed Jesus the Jewish king. Right, so so if I recall, they just put the sign on him and it said it in Latin and in Greek and in Hebrew, right? Something, it said it in a few languages, right? King of the Jews. But he never himself was king of the Jews, nor did he didn't have the crown. He wasn't accepted as king. That's the whole thing, right? That's the whole thing. It's part of the thing where people say that Yeshua was king, and I always maintain, yeah, he could have been if he was anointed properly. He could have been if the people had accepted him as king. He could have been if he physically ruled the kingdom, but he wasn't, right? He was just a man, a teacher, a master, a sage, all likely. And I must say it again. There's a very good chance that if I was around at the time of Yeshua, at the time of the Second Temple, I would have also forsaken the sages and their squabbling with the different sects, and either gone to be an Essene, Nazarite, in the Judean desert, or followed Yeshua around. I mean, I could see myself doing both. I mean, one or the other, likely. Or I totally would be down with our sages, right? The scribes and the Pharisees and all of those Chazal. But I honestly don't know. Yes says, along with Mary Magdalene remains also lots of other saints in Greece. A lot of saints are what, buried in Greece? Okay, I'm not sure exactly what that is referring to, but okay. Okay, let's just continue. Because I'm sorry that there's like a disconnect, right, between the chat yesterday and what's going on now. And sometimes I can recall what was being said, and sometimes I can't. You'll have to forgive me. Sneezer said, I'm making it about myself. That's what quoting me yesterday. And here, I worry about me making it about mine. We make it about us, and us is a very good thing. Spoken like Winnie the Pooh a little bit here. Huh? We make it about us, and us is a good thing. I can totally see that being part of Winnie the Pooh. Yes, said Melchizedek, though is described unborn by woman, Jesus is considered as type Melchizedek, no Aaron type priest. Well, let's put it this way. Melchizedek was around before the tribe of Levi ever got the priesthood. Melchizedek was around before Avram became Abraham, before he was circumcised, before he even had the covenant between the parts. So if there was a priesthood, right, what does it say? It says, Vehu chohen le'el elyon. And he was a priest of El Elyon. El Elyon is two names of God that are, I think they have like an Akkadian or Canaanite origin, but the Torah kind of brought it into the Hebrew pantheon of names, right? Many times, names that were previously used to describe certain gods were given to be the name of a revelation of the Hebrew God, rather than a God in and of themselves. El Elyon is two different names, and it has to do with a very high revelation. Indeed, El means God in the sense of the right side, and Elyon means high, or mighty. No, not mighty, it's high. So the high God, the word El Elyon many times touches on the three top revelations in the Tree of Life, right? Ones which are hidden, ones which have a connection to the seven, but only partly. And some parts are hidden and some parts are revealed. So that's El Elyon. I think I'm done with the. I'm sorry. I think I'm done with the chat here that took place yesterday. Is this true? Am I? Wait. Oh man. I'm sorry. I keep moving out of the screen because I'm sorry for the quality of today's chat right here. Okay. Let's see. So people said anagram. We will stay 3 more hours. Said yes. When I said I had a couple of streams that were 4 hours long. Oh boy, said Sneezer, go be a husband. Shalom everyone. I too enjoyed, and my woman said hi. And then I clicked off and I went to spend some time with her. So now, good people, now I'm going to go to the current chat and move over to the other screen where I can see myself broadcasting live. All right, let's see. Wow, so a lot of chat going on here too. But first I want to make sure. Okay. So I've been going back and forth today with a user who left comments on the recent videos, a user called Edward Nathan Schwartz, or Schwartz. I'm assuming it's Schwartz. Now this person, you can read the comments and the back and forth if you want. Let's just say that he has made a lot of assumptions about who I am and what I'm doing here. And I think we actually do agree on a lot of things, but in some things we fundamentally, I think, disagree. I'm no stranger to that. That's not foreign to these engagements and broadcasts. But it just seems to me that he doesn't fully take into account, because of his assumptions, not because he doesn't know, but because he assumes one thing, he doesn't take another into account. And what I mean by that is, if you read his comments, he basically says that I'm wrong about the way I'm going about my vow. I'm wrong about the way that I read the biblical Hebrew. And I'm basically wrong and beyond help in general. And I agree with certain things that he said, because, I don't pretend to hold any kind of truth. I don't pretend to have any kind of knowledge. I have tradition, and I maybe have my own take or spin or view on it, to be sure. But I've never spoken in absolutes. And yet he seems to, at least from his comments, he has decided that I'm A, B, C, D, and he's just going with that. Now, as you know, unless somebody is downright rude or trolling beyond belief, sometimes even if they're trolling beyond belief, I will engage with them as long as they are civil and relatively courteous. I will engage with them. And if they call me a fool who doesn't know what he's doing, I will agree with them. Because what else am I going to do? I'm going to start fighting these people? If they say things of substance, maybe I will have something to reply. That's a given. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because A, because it's going on now and it's been on my mind today. And B, because I remembered, as I was going through this, I remembered one video that I did where I was reading the hate comments and the hate mail, let's say, that I received. And I think I'll do that again at some point, because I loved it. I really loved it. It's a great video that I think of sometimes because it was nice to do. Different comments and different threads opened up today in from yesterday's video, the video before that, right? But I'm not going to go for it right now. I'm going to go hop in now to the chat that's going on right now. And thank you, people, for bearing with me. It's been 38 minutes, and I'm here blah, blah, blahing. So now I'm going to read some of your words and maybe react and respond and be illuminated and enlightened. Robert said, how did Asher's Gad, Reuven, and East Menashe land get taken? Well, what do you mean how? There was a war, and Og, the king of the Bashan, and Sichon, the king of the Emori, Moses fought them, the Israeli army fought them, and they took their land. It was, right, we were not allowed to fight Moab, we were not allowed to fight with Ammon, we were not allowed to fight with Edom, right? If I'm not mistaken. But we were allowed to fight with the Emori, the Amorites. And we were allowed to fight with those kingdoms in that area. If I'm not mistaken, it was Moab, Ammon, and Edom, which we were not able. He was like, nope, you don't touch that. That belongs to them. But if these people want to go to war with you, have at it and take their land. So if you mean get taken, they left, if I'm not mistaken, the women and children there. They sort of built barriers and fences and defenses in place. And then they went off to join their brothers and cross the desert and fight the war that lasted 13, 14 years, the war of conquest of Canaan, of the Holy Land, at which point in the book of Joshua we see how they arrived and they said, okay, we fulfilled our part of the deal, release us and let us head back. Now, if you mean something else, please do say so. Okay. Peace and Coffee says, if you won't be better tomorrow than you were today, then what do you need tomorrow for? Quoting Rabbi Nachman of Breslev. And once again, I'm reading it in English, but I can't quite place the Hebrew. And I may have heard it in the past. I've heard many things Rabbi Nachman has said. There are many gems. He is definitely still one of my masters. I don't follow him blindly and 100%, but Rabbi Nachman of Breslev is definitely one of my masters to this day. If you say this, I'll drop a sub with a song. I woke up in a new in a new Bugatti bug. I woke up in a new Bugatti. Okay. If you say this, I'll drop a sub with a song. I woke up in a new Bugatti. Prince Masaku, ha ha ha. You know what? Is this a song that I don't know? Because I don't know most songs, right? Like, technically speaking, there are more songs that I don't know than that I do know. Where is the reading the comments? I'm reading the comments from yesterday's broadcast, and now I'm here, as I said. Hey, Eiler is in the house. Hello from Ashkelon. Alex Tazi, shalom, shalom, shalom. Hello from Ashkelon. Did you go to the beach today? Huh? It was nice. I love the Ashkelon beach. Sorry, I'm late, said Sneezer. Show can start now. Hey, there he is. Now we can start. It's been 41 minutes. About time we started. I have to re-begin after to catch whatever he's replaying. No, said Sneezer. I shave my head because I want to feel the breeze. Hey, you know what? When I first shaved my head from long hair, when I was 18. One of the first things I did was run to the mikveh, to the ritual pool. And for the first time in a few good years, I was able to feel the water right on my skull. And it was lovely. And so I shaved my head. And repeated times I shaved my head because then I started growing my side curls. So I left a tiny, tiny bit of hair over here. The rest was shaved almost completely, like almost down to the skin. And just a couple of millimeters of hair, and then I shaved my hair regularly and I let the long locks grow. And technically speaking, that's my hair now. I just let the hair grow around it, but I never cut off my locks, my side curls, I mean. Okay. Once I felt the breeze, it was a keeper, he says. Oh, I know, if you read it more, you'd agree with it more. I'm assuming you're talking about the New Testament. Followers of Yeshua and Christians are always pushing me. In that sense, it's commendable. They have found such a great source of enlightenment. They have found what they consider to be such a great source of truth and of all good traits, right? And of genuine kingdom of God spirituality, as it were. And they want other people to be, not because of pride or vanity or ego, I think. I think they are truly, genuinely interested in having other people experience the joy, the bliss, the unity, the grace that they feel on a regular basis. So I don't see it, losing my English here. I don't go against people who try to convert me, who try to tell me, oh, don't worry, you'll come to Yeshua, you'll come to Jesus, whatever, whatever it is they say, because I get it. Because there was a short time in my life where I was the same way, not in regards to Yeshua, but in regards to when I started getting deeper into Torah, and I started to figure out a little bit of what the Torah is really talking about past adolescence and boyhood, growing up religious and all that. When I was already in my late teens, about to go into the army, right, and I was in yeshiva, meaning that's what I was doing. Just I devoted the time to study, and I became a little bit vain, a little bit, and condescending once or twice. And then when my woman alerted me to that, that's when I knew okay, that's cool. And again, I'm not saying that Christians and followers of Yeshua are vain or condescending. I'm saying I get it. They have found something so amazing, and they want to share that good news, as they say, with the world. And I get it. I do. You're right, said Ariel. The ribbons should be all natural and hand-woven out of plant fibers. Yes, probably should. Sneezer said, Jesus made no argument in defense, thus gave himself. He also told his followers many times ahead of time that he would be crucified. Though I do see the point that was pretty likely too. Okay. Also, Torah foretold Messiah, so he had to. Right, again, another thing that followers of Yeshua and Christians say is that if you look carefully, Yeshua is there from the beginning, from the Bet of Bereshit, until the Lamed of Yisrael, which is the final word of the Torah. And that he's there from A to Z, right, from Alpha to Omega. How willing it was, though, is tough to say from my perspective 100%. I see what you mean, okay. Oblivion, hey! Usal is here. Hello. Sneezer said, yeah, I'm talking about the rest of the world. Israel is a very small place. Yes, it is. About the kings making kings. No, I meant, well, the kingdom of Israel, the kingdom of Judah, not necessarily the land or state of Israel. These people asking you to apologize, seriously, we are not our grandparents nor theirs. Yeah, I mean, if people are so indignant about modern day Jews killing their anointed one, what are you going to do? And he was anointed by blood and spirit. Oh, and Mary. Chili, hello, Chili. Hello, I'm back just like yesterday. As am I. Look at that. Twinsies. I'm Greek. Yofi, hello. Nice to see you, man. Greek Chili. Otherwise known as... No, I'm not going to make a gag about Greek Chili. Radar Shadow, hello, says, how is the peoples of the book fighting about this different from the Pharisees? I don't understand the question. Oh, but Sneezer answered, here is at least a Christian Jew, and I assume you are Muslim. All welcome. How is the peoples of the book fighting about this different from the Pharisees? I'm not sure exactly what you mean. I'm sorry. Maybe someone else will answer and I'll be able to understand it better. Robert says, for the Pushim, the Pharisees, their public enemy number one was and still is Yeshua. If you say so, I think they had many enemies, and that's partly why the second temple fell, because of all the infighting, you know? Sneezer said, the name of a god is actually the name of a revelation. Yes, that correlates entirely with my revelation. Yeah, it is. That's what a name is, right? Sneezer says to Robert, until he returns in every other, and they realize it. LOL, this is the 19th. Let's see how many days back this gets. Yeah, well, you know, there were times a few years ago when I used to go live and I had comments and questions in the chat from like 3 days, right? If it was, let's say, if I broadcasted on Thursday and then it was Friday, Shabbos, Sunday, it would be 3 almost full days, and I would go live, let's say, Sunday night. It would be like 3 days worth of stuff, and sometimes I really did start from dates that were a few days away. What will you do with your pomegranate and lemon, the tithes? Well, I leave them to rot because they are supposed to. The best thing is to let them rot and go back to the ground. Well, no, the best thing, if there is a temple and a proper priest, is to give them to the priest, right? And I'm a Levite, I'm supposed to give 1/10 of my tithe, all right, or to give it to the poor. Again, in different years, you give it to different people depending on the nature of the year. There's Maaser, Truma Gdola, Truma Ktana. There are different sort of ways of giving the tithe. Certain tithes in certain years go to certain people. Let's leave it at that. But that doesn't necessarily exist, all of it anyway, right now. So I basically simply let it rot back into the ground. If we were all supposed to agree on everything, there would be only one person, said Sneezer. Of course we all disagree on things. Yes, we do. I like it that way. I simply like to respectfully disagree. And if it comes to action, right, it's like, at what point do you take action? If there's clear and present danger, you take action, because then words lead to action, and you don't want that. But if it's, let's say, something over here, where it's just people expressing opinions, right, and they have their own thoughts, or depending on who you go with, their thoughts have them, then by all means, say whatever you want, troll me, insult me, whatever it is, right? Engage with me on deep things. I'm all for it. I'm here to get this done. I agree with some of that heavy criticism too, said Sneezer, but to a far lesser extent and certainly not beyond guidance. Okay, yeah, that's pretty much what I told him. Robert Harrison, Sneezer said to Robert, LOL, one chatter already in the ditch from driving chatting. 1 hour later, don't text and drive. Too late. Peace and Coffee asks, according to an Orthodox Jewish understanding, what is the Shekhinah and what is the Ruach HaKodesh? So the Shekhinah is the divine feminine presence, classically, traditionally, Ruach HaKodesh is a lower form of prophecy. You can think of Ruach HaKodesh as a kind of pool of knowledge and information that is there that you can tap into, like stick a straw in it and go, right? And you can think of prophecy, and that is something which everybody can tap into. The spirit of prophecy, however, is more personal. Ruach HaKodesh, you can say, is more general, and the spirit of prophecy, Ruach Nevuah, is more personal, more individual. And while prophecy can arrive in different ways, whether it's night dreams, daydreams, visions, trances, and things of that nature, Ruach HaKodesh is something that you can tap into that is a bit of a lower form of prophecy. Again, traditionally. Now, Shekhinah means dwelling. That's what it means. Shachen, Lishkon, Shekhinah, these are all different derivatives of Shin Chaf Nun, of dwelling. Shekhinah is represented by the lower Sphira of Malchut, and is, kind of technically speaking, traditionally associated with the divine feminine. And there are two divine feminines. There's the lower one and the higher one. There's the lower Shekhinah and the higher Shekhinah. So according to the Orthodox Jewish understanding, that's what those are. Different revelations of God as we perceive them. Peace and coffee. Hi, said Sneezer. Tradition, said BMXers. Hello, BMXers. Good to see you. Hi, BMX, said Sneezer. Ever hear of Pre-Chopper? You'd likely get along. I'm a fan of you, said 999 Forever, and I am a fan of you, 999 Forever. Hi, says Sneezer. Hi back, said 999. Robert said, what I'm saying is in Lebanon, Gad Asher's territory, modern day 2024, and East Menashe, Gad Reuven is modern Jordan. That sounds right. That sounds about right, yeah. Simatanda said, you are such a nice guy. I would like to sometime meet you in person. I deeply appreciate the sentiment. I'd like to meet you too. I have met 3 or maybe 4 people already that I got to know through this channel who arrived in Israel. And I got to engage with them, hang out with them, talk with them on the phone, perhaps, if not actually physically meet them. So, yeah. Is it schalk or shalk or schalk? Kotezi. Say schalk, schalk, schalk. There, I did all 3 if you're still here. Yes, I did. Sneezer said, water on skull, lovely. Yes, I depend on my morning shower meditation. I can see why. I shower daily, not my hair, I tie it back. But I shower after I work out a little bit, and it's... I never used to be a morning shower type of person. I loved showering in the evening and going into bed like all clean and fresh, but I shower in the mornings now, and it's different, but equally good. Ariel says, have you been here already? If not, hi. But if you have, and I'm just forgetful, so hi again. Just like Elohim, personally I suspect that Elyon was the name for the head of an angelic hierarchy. Right, so you're saying it's a divine revelation, but not one of God's revelations, so to speak, but through a messenger that is part of the head of an angelic hierarchy. Could be. Could be. The names of the angels, although many times would end with El or with Vav Nun. But I digress. Sneezer says it's more that we want people to know the unmatched understanding of their king, and that he died for you so you could live free from Torah, said Sneezer. Though most Christians don't hold that perspective, most haven't met Jesus. Torah forbid Messiah, Torah foretold Messiah, so he had to. He's explaining what he said earlier. Torah foretold Messiah would die silent to his accusers. Okay. Well, I mean, it's still kind of what I was saying, that Christians and followers of Yeshua see Yeshua in everything in the Torah, and they connect the dots, sometimes reading between the lines, and that's not bad for them, because Much like in the New Testament, if I'm not mistaken, many times it sort of harkens back to, this and this and this happened as was prophesied by Isaiah, and this and this and this happened as was prophesied by Jeremiah. And Christians and followers of Yeshua in the Bible and in discussions, they many times feel the need or the inclination, let's say, not a need, to connect it back to Yeshua was everywhere at all times from the beginning. He was there in Eden. He was there before creation. He'll be there after creation falls into, the next phase, whatever it is, end of days, and then he'll return as a judge. I mean, I've heard all these things before from different people, and to that I respond, I don't believe it, but if you say so, I'm not going to go against you. As the good book says Peace and Coffee, when a poor man eats a chicken, one of them is sick. Tevye, Fiddler on the Roof. I don't remember that one. Driving now, Achi. Well, keep your eyes on the road. Usal, hi, drive safe, have Siri type. Yes, do that. Sneezer says, a divine female presence. Please go on about that. It's one area where my revelation differs from most Christian perspectives. That expanded well already. Wait, perspectives that expanded well already? I'm not exactly sure. But I'll say a word or two on the divine feminine presence. We are told that there's a divine male presence and a divine feminine, right? A masculine and a feminine, male and female. Both, so to speak. There's a higher and a lower to both of them. And the 10 Sfirot, the tree of life, they have a duality. Right? It starts with one root, but then it splits up. It goes down the line, right, left, and center, and then culminates at the bottom with Malchut. So the divine feminine presence is the name that is uttered of the four-letter name of God. Because when we look at Yod Hei Vav Hei, we don't say what's written in the punctuation and in the letters. We say Adonai, meaning we see one thing, we read another thing, and we speak a different thing. That thing which we speak, the Kabbalists many times likened it to a sword being in its sheath, where the sword is Yod Hei Vav Hei, and the sheath in which it is kept is Adonai. Written Aleph Daled Nun Yod. So that idea of the divine feminine presence is that it's kind of hidden. The divine feminine presence has the capacity to become a mother and give new life. The divine feminine presence receives everything from the 9 Sfirot above it. It has no light and substance of its own, technically speaking, and it receives all the way from crown to kingdom. That's what it's likened. That's what it's called, the Sfirah of kingdom of Malchut. It has nothing of its own. It only reflects and manifests that which is given to it through the divine hierarchy from top to bottom, through the different sfirot, through the different worlds, through the different realms, through the different revelations. And the reason why... Now this wasn't always like this, by the way. This is something that has to do with the sun and the moon. The sun being the male, the moon being the female, right? The sun has light. The moon has no light of its own, but it reflects the light of the sun. It also goes through monthly cycles, much like the woman does. I think that's enough to go on right now. I'll leave it at that. But the connection, let's say, between the Zachar v'Nukba, Dechar v'Nukba, which is male and female, masculine and feminine, divine feminine presence, that's what we are here to do. We are here to unify with our actions, right? The divine presence goes from top to bottom, and we raise it back up from bottom to top. We sort of send it back up. And the stronger we get, the more mastery we have of ourselves, the more we engage in Torah and commandments and in living a proper, good, honest, truthful, worthy, responsible life. It's like when you have a pinball machine and you sort of you pull back, right, on the lever, on the spring, and you just boom, and with the power of inertia, it's able to get that energy and fly up. We are that energy, right? We are that lever, and we need to sometimes pull ourselves back and stretch ourselves to our limit to send it forward. Okay. I hope that wasn't too much of a ramble, but that's what I briefly have to say about the Divine Feminine Presence. I've spoken of it definitely more in previous videos and live streams, and feel free to check it out in my channel if you're interested. Robert Harrison said, the written Torah say nothing about a Nazir using a comb or brush. No, it doesn't. It says Gadel pera se'ar rosho. That's what it says. That the hair, right, is sacred, is holy, and that it's set apart. No razor shall come upon it, it says, right? The crown of the consecration is on his head, and that it should be grown wild. And grown wild, halacha says that you're not allowed to use any tools, but you yourself can use your fingers, because it's a part of your body. Robert Harrison said, what got you into working out health? Look, I've always led a fairly active life. There were times when I worked out in the past, and then I stopped, and then I went back to it. The main reason why I'm working out these days is because, thank God, it's being paid for. I have a gym membership from my workplace. So if they're paying for it, I'm definitely going to take advantage of it. And also, there is so much freedom in exercise and in pushing your body, developing your body. There's Rav Kook, in his book Orot HaTshuva, The Lights of Repentance, he said that the exercise and the physical activities that, let's say, secular people engage in, it's that exactly is what gives the righteous people who are in prayer and study and meditation the power and the energy to sustain themselves. And it's again a kind of yin-yang thing, the physical, the spiritual. More plainly, it's manifested in the relationship of David, of King David, and Yoav, his general. And were it not for Yoav fighting the battles, King David would not be able to sit and learn Torah. And were it not for King David sitting and learning Torah, Yoav would not have the energy and the strength to fight the battles. It's that type of thing. BMXer says, Sneezer, no, I have not. Why do you say that? Wait, what was it? See, now I can't find what they were talking about there. The next phase is world peace, says Sneezer. God willing, may God grant us world peace. May we merit it in truth, in righteousness. May we merit world peace. Sneezer says to BMXers, chopper is also a type of bike. Right. Whose bike is this? It's a chopper, baby. Whose chopper is this? It's Zed's. Who's Zed? Zed's dead, baby. Zed's dead. From the same era, he says, and he's a close friend of mine. It seems like you skip over a few comments. I'm sorry, man, says Robert. I'm sorry. I skip over comments. I skip over chats. There's so much. I'm so thankful and so grateful. Look at that. Siamantanda said, Sneezer, Yeshua never said we aren't free from Torah. He expressed that we become greater in righteousness from teaching Torah. In the book of Matthew there, Yeshua is greater than Paul. Okay, see, this is like Christian talk that I have nothing to do with, but by all means, go for it. This channel is open to all faiths and religions as far as I'm concerned. What's up, little Andre Dreyer? How's South Africa? BMXer said, oh, I thought it's a person. I also thought it's a person. I've heard of and seen a chopper bike. Nitzarim is in the house. Hi, Nitzarim Nazarite. Yeshua frees us from Torah? No way. We are to resist anyone who tries to take us away from Torah. Good thing Yeshua taught his followers to obey Torah. Siamatanda said, Yeshua came to maintain the Torah of his father because what sin is offense against Torah, repentance is the return to the actions of Torah. Hi, by the way, says Nitzarim. Sneezer responded to him and he said, as I said, most disagree, but Jesus came to complete the Torah, and he quotes the New Testament, the Torah and the prophets were until John. Since that time, the kingdom of God is preached. All right, if you say so. Christians in chat, what is the Pentecost? Said Usal. Sneezer says, and every man presseth into it. Everyone gets saved. Yeah, said Sneezer, but I'm a newcomer. I've only seen a few of your previous videos, none of your lost ones. So yeah, I had a channel, for those who don't know, I had a channel a few years ago with over or just about 500 videos and live streams. And YouTube removed that channel. It's a long story. I'm still somehow hopeful that somehow it will come back. But I was able to, let's say, save about 130 videos or something like that, and it's in the channel's playlist, Old Channel Archive. In this channel's playlist titled Old Channel Archive. Robert says, BMXers, what do you mean, for me now, or with the elections and new government now, like how South Africa? Coincidentally, on Jonathan's and Nami's anniversary. 21 years, people. 21 years married. Hey, you know what? Since it is my anniversary, let's turn this into a marriage AMA as well. If you people who are married out there have any tidbits, any pearls of wisdom for me, by all means, share them. And if anyone out there wants to ask questions from somebody who's been married for 21 years today, you can do that too. Ask away. Siamatanda asks the question: the Torah that regard to women, because Yeshua is a man, did he do those laws as well for the women? Because they also had to keep their part of the Torah as well. Well, somebody who is a follower of Yeshua, by all means, answer them. Him. Sneezer said to Usal essentially that they discovered Atman. Right. If I'm not mistaken, Atman is what? The true consciousness? Right? Like divine consciousness? I don't remember. I don't remember what it is. Okay, I might be completely wrong. Atman sounds so familiar. What is Atman? I used to know offhand what that means. Well, maybe someone will tell me in the chat. Make straight the way of the Lord, the voice of one... Is that the end of the username? Shalom. Shalom to you. Make straight in the desert a highway for our God. Right? That's the Yeshayahu, right? Nitzalim says, I'm not a Christian, but Pentecost is Greek for 50. Sneezer said to Usal, how understanding they were is difficult to say, but they were using it by Jesus' instructions. Usal responds to Sneezer, I was wondering if it was thought of similarly to the Shekhinah. New government, he answers. So Robert answered him. He's talking about the new government. Happy I found your channel. I'm happy you found my channel too. It's always great to make new connections. It's always great to have new engagements, people to learn from. As in the 50 days of counting to Shavuot. Right. Pentecost is also the name of Shavuot in the one of the translations, right? It's the festival of the harvest, and it's the festival of Pentecost, it's the festival of the first fruit, and it's the festival of the giving of the Torah. Those are the four names translated on the fly right now. Can you speak on Peot? Which Hasidic communities do this more than others? Well, what do you mean more? Some keep them a little bit, and some really grow them out very thickly. Some leave a tiny strand of hair, and some have like these big things. I can't name Hasidic communities. Look, I know specific communities that do it, but many Hasidic communities, that's part of Hasidism, right? To go the extra mile. And so if the Torah says don't shave it off, what they do is they go the opposite. Not the opposite. They do what the Torah says, but they embellish on it, and I mean that in a positive way, by growing out their side curls and growing out their hair on the side. Peot, let's put it this way. The beard is a certain divine revelation represented in the hair. The hair on the head is, for the Nazarite and the non-Nazarite, is a type of divine revelation. And the hair that connects the head of the hair to the head of the beard, that's right here, that's what they grow out. And there's a reason why they grow it out, and there's a reason why we were not supposed to sever this connection, why the Torah says that no razor should come over here in the connection between the beard, even if you're a woman and you don't grow a beard, right? It's that idea of anatomy, biology, the physical human being being the image of God in a metaphysical and spiritual way. So I say beard, but it's that place, let's put it that way, that connects the two halves of the head, roughly speaking, right over here, right here. And this is where they grow it out, because it's a kind of connecting revelation between higher and lower, Something like that. Let's say it continues a revelation that is between higher and lower. So let's leave it at that. Sneezer says, usually I am less familiar with Vedic terminology, of course. BMXer says, I've been watching from the beginning. Good for you, man. I've been broadcasting from the beginning. Hope you don't block me. No, I've only ever blocked one person, and that wasn't even on YouTube. I blocked one person in the DMs ever. Because I don't believe in blocking people. I believe you should be able to say what you want. I might remove comments if you spam, but I haven't done that yet either. I haven't removed, I think, a single comment that I've ever gotten on any of my videos, and I've never blocked anyone who has ever engaged with me in the DMs on any platform, bar one. There was one person who was going on, and I gave him fair chances and opportunities to have an open dialogue and really actually get into it, but there was no having it. For a few weeks, we had a back and forth, not for the entirety of the few weeks, but we had for a matter of a few weeks an ongoing back and forth. And at the end, I said, look, dude, I have to block you. You're leaving me no choice. So I won't block anybody. Biting my tongue, says BMXers. Watching from the beginning and biting your tongue. Yeah, okay, well look, if you have to say something, say something. You don't need to bite your tongue. If you want to do it privately in the DMs, you know, I'll gladly read it, and sometimes I'll even respond if I can. Make straight, said Sneezer. Haven't seen him block any yet. I'll probably be first. Why would he block you, says BMXers. 17. Do not think that I came to destroy the law or the prophets. I did not come to destroy, but to fulfill. Yeah, I can see why he said that. Again, I don't consider him my Messiah, my Savior, my King, nor the Son of God, but I do consider him a guy who had a lot of interesting things to say, a lot of wise ways of being in the world, based mostly, if not all, in the Torah itself, knowing when to stand up for what he thought the Torah was going with, and there's a lot to that. So, I do believe it, right? I do believe it that as a Jew, right, Yeshua, if and when he did actually live and things that happened in the gospel actually came to pass and happened, and even if not, we can glean the wisdom from it. But let's just say, for the sake of argument here, for the purpose of the chat, that he was actually a living man, a master, a sage, a teacher, going around the country, preaching and teaching, gathering people, telling them to get their act together, pick up your cross, follow me. Right, doing some going up against the Pharisees, going up against the scribes, asking who is the master of the Sabbath? Is Sabbath the master of the human, or is the human master of the Sabbath? These are deep questions. So I do believe that would be a type of person who would say, no, I came to fulfill. Right? I came to fulfill. This does not necessarily mean to end one covenant, which is not supposed to ever end, and it says so in the Torah. It's not necessarily supposed to mean end one covenant and start a new covenant with a whole other type of person. It's always and ever been the covenant of Torah between the Hebrew people and God. And later on, obviously, things will happen, and there would be a new Torah and a new covenant. It says so in Jeremiah, but not the Christian new covenant, because that goes against a few things that are laid out in the old covenant. And it doesn't say ever that God will choose a new people, nor a new Torah. It just says that there will be a new kind of pact, a new agreement, a new covenant, a new bond that will be made in later days. Sneezer says to BMXers, why bite your tongue? Too much catsup? Make Straight continues with the New Testament, says, for assuredly I say to you, till heaven and earth pass away, one jot of one little will by no means pass from the law till it is all fulfilled. So no, that's the word of Christ or Yeshua himself. Right, I understand what you're saying. Again, I don't believe that that's the word of God, but I can definitely believe that there's such a man existed, and that this would be a fairly accurate representation or accord of what went on. Make straight, said Sneezer, fulfill, exactly, complete, over, done, as is Luke. Our Lord did that, said Make Straight. Netzarim says, Torah is eternal, it's non-changeable and non-negotiable. Yeshua didn't end Torah, which is why Paul took the Nazarite vow and went to the temple to do sacrifices in the book of Acts. Happy anniversary, homie. Thank you. Most appreciated. Make straight. Sneezer said to make straight. Hey, no ganging up. Remember, our brothers are veiled. They cannot see, especially in Jerusalem. Siamatanda said to Sneezer, you neglect that Paul is the only person who expresses freedom from Torah. I am of the opinion Paul is a false teach and a test for those who look to the way. I've encountered other followers of Yeshua and followers of the New Testament, Christians and others who say that Paul was a false follower and that one should not be following him. Atman is basically spirit, the part of God that unites with us. Okay, I hear you. Robert says, in marriage, communication is key. Nobody's a mind reader. Tell your spouse how you're feeling. That is golden. I could not agree more. Sneeder says to Siamansa, read Luke 16, also Jesus' words showing the end of Torah. Siamantanda replies to the Netzarim, says Paul never finished the vow as they were doing it according to the temple, right? Worse off, he was called into trial for case and deviated that case to cause another uproar. Wow, see, this is all going way over my head because it's been such a long time since my cursory glance, let's say, one-time glance at the New Testament. Sneezer says, Sneezer says, Luke, the Torah and the prophets were until John. Since that time, the kingdom of God is preached, and every man presseth into it. That's why he continues, Jesus is king to all, and forgave everyone even before they ever sinned, knowing we would. That's why only Jesus can make world peace. If you say so, man. If you say so. I respectfully disagree. BMXer says to Robert, nothing bad has happened so far with opposition protesting and or looting again, if that's what you mean. Well, let's hope that the change of government happens peacefully and with the rule of law in place, without violence and without any kind of like vile opposition, right? People need to. I don't know what goes on in politics here, let alone in other countries, but let's hope that things go well and that you get a leader that is worthy of the people. Simatanda said, Sneezer, just read Luke. Where does Yeshua say that we don't have to do the Torah? Okay, so you know what? There's like a back and forth going on here. Did you read or saw when I said happy anniversary, says BMXers? Yes, I did, and I'm very happy about that. Sneezer continues and says to him, the Torah and the prophets were until John. Alright, so he's just continuing to say that. Sneezer said, Jesus gave 2 commandments shortened to 1, love every other, God most. Right, that's one thing, by the way, that when I read that in the New Testament, I was like, yeah, pretty much. I don't disagree. I really don't. BMXers, he accidentally skipped comment. Yeah, accidentally I do skip comments. He did also, says Sneezer, reinforce the 10 commandments, forget where, but above them is the first. Love every other, God first. Usal, did the blocker's name start with a W, Yoni? I don't know. I can look quickly if you want, but I don't think I will do that right now. No, I don't think so, but maybe. Siamtanda said, Sneezer, since Yeshua has not once said we are free to do as we please pertaining to the law, you are using Pauline rhetoric. With the teachings of Yeshua, it's just that simple. You don't read too good, do you? Said Sneezer. Where does he expressly say no one has to do it? Okay. So I guess these 2 followers of Yeshua are disagreeing. It's all good. Thank you, says Make Straight, because I have a lot to share. Great. We all here have a lot to receive, right? I think so, anyway. Mostly biting my tongue because of what other people said BMXers. Sneezer said, since I've already answered that question many times, I will block you so as to not disrupt his chat. And he replies saying, I have it open, I'm asking you a simple question. Okay, well, I hope you don't end up blocking each other just because you may disagree on something, but that's your business, right? Peace and Coffee says, I heard by Orthodox Jewish sources that it is possible Moshe Rabbeinu could be Mashiach. Have you heard this? Have you ever studied on Mashiach? What are your thoughts on Messianic times? So first, I have a video in the archive on the Messiah and Messianic times, a few minutes long. Right back then, my videos were 2 to 5 minutes. I didn't go live. I recorded and edited. I had an opening theme and everything. I even told people to like and subscribe, like a good YouTuber. I stopped doing that pretty quickly, but I did do that for a time. Now let's put it this way. Mashiach literally means anointed one. Okay? Anointed one. And when Moses made the anointing oil for the tabernacle and for the priests, I don't think he himself was anointed. I'm trying to think very quickly now. No, he tells him, right? He tells Moses to anoint the artifacts and everything to do with the tabernacle, and to anoint the priests behind their, right, on the lobe of their ear, and on their head, and on their thumb, and on their toe, their big toe. As for Messianic, so that's Mashiach. Mashiach is a king, an anointed king. That's literally what that means. Mashiach means anointed one. Kings were anointed, and prophets were anointed, and priests were anointed. So Mashiach could be either one of them. Now, when you say Melech HaMashiach, the Messiah king, the king Messiah, that's already a ruler. A prophet, a priest don't have to be a ruler. A king is a ruler by definition. A king has a kingdom. If there is no kingdom, there is no king. En Melech Belo Am, as we say in Hebrew, there is no king without his people. So that's my thoughts on Mashiach. It's somebody living, breathing, walking, talking, who is anointed. That's it. That's all it means. What are your thoughts on Messianic times? So Messianic times, there is, I'll say this briefly, and I recall also saying it in that original video or in other videos since then. Anybody could be Mashiach. Traditionally, it's somebody of Judah, of the house of David, and all that. And later on, even of the house of Zerubbabel, right? But basically, the king could be from any tribe. The king could be from any tribe. There were even queens at some point, although that's not halachically kosher, but I'll leave it at that. Rulers were men and women across the ages, and kings were mostly men, but some queens existed. They weren't the best, which is why I'm not going into it right now. But my thoughts on Messianic times is that you can have a king Messiah who is not the final one. There are different ideas on what it is that constitutes a Messiah. Rambam, Maimonides, in the laws of kings and their wars, he brings down the idea that if somebody rallies the people, defeats the nation of Amalek, builds the temple, that person could definitely be the Messiah. He just needs to then be anointed, accepted, given the crown, as it were, and to rule. That person will live and die like any other king that has ever walked on the face of the earth. The thing is that we are told that at some point there will be the Messiah, not a Messiah of a line of kings. The Messiah. What people usually would say is the final one, is the one who will unite the earthly kingdom with the kingdom of God, something like that. But my thoughts on the Messianic times, there are so many different opinions. But I simply see it very plainly as the time when Israel will once again have an anointed king who will unite the people, who will be able to hopefully unite us, not just the people of the kingdom of Judah, living here and abroad, but the 10 lost tribes, right, in Assyria, right, who were exiled by Assyria. A person who can do that, a person who can rally the people, is a person who can also cause the people to finally get their act together, accept their covenant, take on the yoke of Torah and commandments, and go all in on this Hebrew thing. And once we, as Hebrew people, fulfill and live up, let's say, to our covenant, then the rest of the world, like a ripple effect, will also be able to join in. And this is mentioned in the prophets as well, by different prophets and that's what I would consider the Messianic times. Now these Messianic times is not like a light switch, it's more like a dimmer switch. And you need to let things come into being, right? You need to let the fruit, when the fruit is ripe enough, then its taste is that much sweeter. But if you pick it before it's ripe, It's sour, disgusting, and malnutritious. So even though it comes from a very kosher root, from a kosher tree, where all of the mitzvahs, even if it's the first fruit, right, sacred, set aside, if you take it too soon, it can't help you out. It can even make you sick. I'll leave it at that. Who is Sneezer, though? Says Make Straight. It's a good question, man. It's a good question. BMXer says, Robert, I've been noticing, and then he has an ellipsis there. Where does he continue? I've been noticing too much New Testament for me. Good night, all. You know what? It's a little bit too much New Testament for me as well, personally. But this channel is not necessarily about me. It's about building a little bit of a community here to discuss matters of faith and religion and how people perceive God and whether I like it or not, let's say. The New Testament and people who follow Yeshua and Christians of all different kinds and sects and groups and they perceive the divine to be as such, in their way, and I want to give that some room here as well. There may come a time, because I have been told by others that there's too much New Testament, not obviously in the last week when I started broadcasting again, but years ago. I was told also by my parents, incidentally. They said, there's a little too much Jesus in your channel. And I said, okay, but I'm just sending my bread upon the water. Whatever comes, comes. And if people in the chat want to discuss Yeshua, maybe at some point I'll stop discussing it, but I won't be blocking them, and I won't be, and if I see a little tidbit there that I agree with or disagree with, I can even repeat it. And then open that up for discussion. Do you know what I mean? I want this to be an open dialogue. I want it to be... So even if I kind of agree with BMXers right now that there's a bit too much New Testament this evening, most of the people watching, most of the people engaging, I think for sure, are followers of Yeshua. And if they want to use this platform, this is not my platform, I'm just a user, right? YouTube doesn't belong to me. I decided to do this because I want to make things happen. And it starts here and now in discussing things with each other. So even if parts of it are very New Testament, go over my head, I don't even believe in it, it's fine by me. Fine by me. It really is. I'm not necessarily going to go with every comment, but I'm not going to block or remove comments either. According to Jeremiah, said Netzarim, the new covenant is with the houses of Judah and Israel. Yah has no covenants with Gentiles. You're either native Israel or you're grafted in. There are no Gentile covenants. Well, no, not in those verses. In those verses, yes, there will be a new covenant for the house of Judah and the house of Israel. Sneezer says, I also agree that Paul was a big misunderstander and called Satan by Jesus, but he was given the church, or pope. Sneezer says, to make straight, I'm a wanderer. He seems to enjoy me co-hosting, though. Yes, indeed. I do enjoy it. Yalla bye, says BMXers. Yalla bye, indeed. Not trying to chase you away, would rather hear your opinion, said Sneezer. No, just guessing the name for fun, said Usal. Robert said to BMXers, I've wrote the same comment 5 times about the Pushim, and my Achi skipped it. You know what? Maybe it just didn't show up because I've been trying to go. What are the chances that something has been on 5 times now that I have not said once? I don't know, man. I don't know. We'll have to see. Siamatanda said, wow, I'm willing to have conversation outside of this chat because it's still a topic of discussion. Oh, and I don't write good. I'm dyslexic. I read fine because I work as a writer. I'm writing on the fly here. Hey, a fellow writer. Good for you. What type of writing do you engage in? Sneezer says, no, it would have been his brother that was anointed, I think. Moses anointed Aaron, was it? Yes, it was. Yes, he did. And his sons. World peace can't be achieved by a ruler, only a lover. Well, ruler doesn't mean not a lover. It can be both. In fact, it ought to be both. Only many lovers. Oh, I see. Many lovers. Not a ruler, only many lovers. Taylor26. Hi, Taylor. Have you read extensively about the Hashmonaim dynasty? Extensively? No. I've read the first few books of Maccabees. I think there are 4 of them, and the first 2 pertain mamish, actually, to the dynasty of the Chashmonaim. I've read some of the, let's say, outside accords, but I'm not a historian or a scholar. So take anything I would say about them with a grain of salt. I do know the traditions, right, of where they hailed from and what they did, and they gathered a small army of rebels, of rebel warriors. Have I read extensively? Can't say I've read extensively about anything ever in my life. I gotta say, because there's always more to know, always more to learn. What's extensive as far as you're concerned, I suppose. I've been blah blah blahing for an hour and a half, but I'm gonna just keep on trucking. Sneezer said, but since Jews refused to have a king during Jesus' time and before, it exempted them from international law. That had to be fixed, obviously. Okay. Taylor 26 said, why did the second temple get destroyed? Seems as though Pharisees, Sadducees, Zealots, Essenes, and Samaritans could not agree on how to do the temple sacrifices. Well, first of all, baseless hatred. Yes, sinat chinam, baseless hatred. Understanding the past is the only way forward if we're going to get animal sacrifices back or not. And Sneezer said, Rome sacked the second temple. Well, technically God did. Yes, God did, working through Rome at 70 of the Christian calendar. Yes, I agree, Taylor, that they simply did not get along, not on matters of temple sacrifice and not on matters of halacha and not on matters of how to treat each other. Oy, oy. Sneezer said to Taylor, think pretty much everyone is against animal sacrifice here. Messianic time is more like a dimmer switch. 100% entirely something most Christians don't get. Well, why do you say that, I wonder? Why do you say that, Sneezer, that most Christians don't get it? I wonder. Peace and Coffee asks, why wasn't Moshe Rabbeinu anointed by God during the burning bush story? According to Orthodox Jewish sources, based on my studies, Moshe Rabbeinu, wait a minute. Oh, whoops. Moshe Rabbeinu, a type of Mashiach. No, I don't recall Moses being anointed at the revelation of the bush. He is given a great revelation, and I spoke of that in the video on the four-letter name Ehyeh, right? The four-letter name of God, Ehyeh, from a few months ago. I don't recall him being anointed, but I might be wrong. Taylor says to Sneezer, animal sacrifices are most likely not coming back. A portable tabernacle that is in Bethel or Shiloh would work, but not at all in Jerusalem, of course. Not at all? Well, if you say so. Unfortunately, says Sneezer, I cannot talk without speaking what's in the New Testament, so if you need to, I will leave. Hey, very cool. You don't have to leave. And no need to apologize, Siamantanda. I apologize for making a noise I don't like talking about in the first place. I should have kept quiet. Like I told BMX, there's no need to bite your tongue. It's an open dialogue here, and if you have something to say, then say it. Sneezer says to Taylor 26, profit won't work either. Can't worship both God and Mammon. Right? Mammon being material goods and wealth. Profit. Well, profit is more translated as revach, but that's a different story. Wow, your parents said that? Both of them or just one? I don't recall what I was saying now in regards to my parents. I'm sorry, I don't recall what I was saying. I remember mentioning them now that you mentioned it in the chat, but I don't remember what I was saying. I certainly don't expect you to read every one of my comments either. Right, okay. Oh, yes, there's too much Jesus. Yes. Both of them, I think. Yes. Both of them told me that there's a little too much New Testament in the chat. And by extension, in the channel, because I'm physically reading the chat and reacting to it. Taylor said to Sneezer, Third Testament would be a more collective offering to God. Animal sacrifices and Yeshua's crucifixion are both one-sided and unfair. Okay. Interesting. That makes sense, says Sneezer. I didn't notice the question either. Maybe you two blocked it. Yes, maybe they did. Peace and Coffee says, in the broad sense, Mashiach or Moshiach could apply to Moses, to redeem Israel out of slavery, out of Egypt. Yes, he was definitely a king and a leader and a ruler who rallied the people and led them from tyranny to redemption and slavery. And definitely, he was a king in that sense, and he fought their wars as well, right? He was a warrior and a fighter. So I know what you mean, but was he actually anointed as Mashiach? I mean, let's put it this way. There's what's called a Nishmat Moshe Mashiach. There's definitely a facet, right? Much like Moshe is called the father of the prophets, even though he wasn't the first prophet, it's because he represents that great bridge between the three higher sfirot and the seven lower ones. He represents a higher form of Adam. That's why he's once in a generation, once in a lifetime, once in creation type of person who was able to perceive God, a single great revelation of the name Ehyeh. Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh. And that was Moses. And that's why the prophecy of Moses differentiates from all the other prophecies, and it's what happens in this week's Torah portion, if I'm not mistaken, where God calls Moses and Miriam, Aaron and Miriam, and he tells them, look, if there are prophets, I will reveal myself to them in visions, in dreams, right? In their imagination. But Moses, your brother, sees me like eye to eye. So how could you talk about him? Right? He literally is seeing God's image. Utmunat Adonai Yabit. It doesn't say tselem, it says tmuna, which is more like picture or image in that sense. So yes, Moshe and Mashiach have a lot in common, but I don't recall offhand if Moses himself was anointed. I'm inclined to believe no, because he was a higher being, right? He didn't need the oil. He was a higher type of being. I'm a part-time scriptwriter. I am also a screenwriter here in South Africa, actually. Well, good for you, man. Robert says, I love my father. I love Ira, Mr. and Mrs. Hurwitz, even the other two brothers we never talked to. That's sweet of you to say. Messiah is the ideal to strive for, says Sneezer to Peace and Coffee. It is right sporty in this chat, says Radar Shadow. The Hashmonai dynasty, says Simon Tanda, is the most interesting study. I only just got into it. Sorry if I spelled anything wrong. Well, since it's a translation, you can translate it and spell it however you want. Some spell it like this, some spell it like that. Andre, come back, said Robert Harrison. Nitzarim says, what's your thoughts on the Koren Sidur versus Art Scroll? The Koren Sidur will be in my mailbox today. Right, I don't know enough about translations because I read them in the Hebrew. This is also something that Schwartz do, that I was going back and forth with today in the comments. He said something about translations, and I say, but I don't go by translations. Obviously, translations will have some sort of agenda or bias to them because it's a translation. I go with the plain Hebrew, and then he argued that my Hebrew is not biblical Hebrew, and that biblical Hebrew is not plain Hebrew, and what rabbis and orthodoxy has done to the Hebrew is kind of warped it. That was his argument, basically. So I'm sorry, I can't tell you what my thoughts are because I don't read the Koren Siddur and I don't read the Art Scroll Siddur. So sorry. Let's see. Most Christians interpret Revelation... Wait, I'm sorry. I thought that it would be in English. The Art Scroll and the Koren Siddur is not necessarily in English. It's been a long time since I've regularly prayed from a prayer book. I'm a fan of spontaneous prayer, meditative prayer, hitbodedut, right, in seclusion, in different types of seclusion, let's say, but definitely spontaneous prayer. It's been such a long time since I prayed regularly from a prayer book that when you said Koren and Art Scroll, my mind immediately went to, oh, he means probably an English translation. So maybe you did. If you didn't, and you're talking about the Hebrew, even though it is in Hebrew, I couldn't stand, let's say, on the different differences. I couldn't illuminate the different differences and say the differences, not the different differences, the differences between them. So I'm sorry, I don't know. Peace and Coffee says, no wait, Sneezer said, most Christians interpret Revelation as a global event. It's personal, happens to each of us when ready. Whoever... Okay, hold on. Peace and Coffee said, most of my studies and information comes from Lubavitch Chabad. Well, that makes sense. They have a lot out there. Sneezer said, whoever asked that blocked question, try misspelling keywords in it. That's a good idea, because it could be that YouTube is censoring certain things. Hit the like button, said Robert. You don't have to, but already 7 people have hit the like, and I like that. Dyslexia is censor's kryptonite. Ha. Nitzarim said, regarding sidurs, I wanted an Orthodox as opposed to the one we used at my conservative shul. Yeah, I can see why. I'm a great fan, let's say, of using modern day... Wait, hold on. Oh, I lost my place in the chat. Here it is. I'm a fan of prayer at large. I'm a fan of prayers that our sages came up with and wrote down. I'm a fan of the different prayers which were added until very recently, going back to, let's say, Tzfat, going back to Spain, going back to many, many places in Europe and in the East. And the different sidurim that were published and were written and were composed, let's say, all of them are really, really good. And some of them are, let's say, better than others, depending on what you want to do. And there are, of course, other, let's say, that they even have Kabbalists have their own sidurim with the different names of God written in there, and the different letters written in there, and the different, and there are sidurim mostly from the East, and Sfardis who have Kabbalah baked right into the everyday siddur. That's not a Kabbalistic siddur, but it is very Kabbalah-based, very Kabbalah-drenched, even. Peace and Coffee asks, does Judaism believe in reincarnation or rebirth? So it's a kind of controversy and difference of opinion. Basically, yes. Basically, yes. Yes. Let's leave it at that. Only watching for today. Greetings, says yes. Okay, only watching. That's cool. Do whatever you want. It's all good. What did you do on your anniversary? Well, it's the Gregorian anniversary. Well, I don't really do anything. The Hebrew anniversary is in exactly 1 week, and I will be attending a friend's wedding. So maybe I'll do something day of, which is going to be Wednesday, the 19th of Sivan, of the Hebrew month of Sivan, or what's known biblically as the third month, biblically. So I did nothing. Tyrone, you Jew? Yes, I am. I Jew. Tyrone, weird comment. What? He said. Siamatanda said, I'm learning Hebrew. Can I ask you to help me converse, please? I'm struggling to retain the speak. Definitely, you can. Hit me up in the DMs. I'd love to speak with you on microphone or in text, however you want. Make Straight says, the Christ, the Son of the true and living God, the God of Jacob and Israel, will share later. Let Sneezer finish his final work. Tyrone, some of us are, said Nitzarim. Good to know, Nitzarim. I love Jewish people. Hey, so do I. Most of them, anyway. Sirmatanda said, Sneezer, wait until words start dancing. That's dyslectic kryptonite. Oh, whoa, oh my God. Oh my God, I'll bet it is. As long as they're not Zionist. Well, he lives in Jerusalem, right? I was just going to say, Tyrone, I live in Jerusalem. Do with that what you will. Peace and Coffee said, by my stating that my studies and information come from Lubavitch Chabad, I was only giving an explanation to my perspective and experience. Yeah, I figured as much, because you're not a Hasidic Jew. Am Yisrael Chai, says Netzarim. Am Yisrael Chai, the people of Israel live. All right, I think the chat, I'm at the end of the chat. What loke. This is a great blessing. And I'm going to say goodbye now. Thank you all. If there's anything that comes in later in the comments or in the chat, I will hopefully be referencing and reading off of it tomorrow. Tyrone says, free Palestine. Why? Did it cost you money? That's a well-known gag. Obviously. I said what I said about the war and about Palestine, so I'll leave it at that. Goodbye. I appreciate every single one of you. I will see you tomorrow, God willing, 10 p.m. Israel time, for another deep dive into this weird ass madness. Until then, let's have a wonderful day, night, afternoon, whoever you are, wherever you are. Know that I appreciate the fact that you take out time from your busy schedule to blah, blah, blah here with me. I love the people here in the chat who are engaging, the people with the likes and the comments. And I don't take any of it for granted. It's such a blessing. It's really great, and I hope to continue doing it. Shalom, shalom from Zion.